This battle is about to explode. Live and let die.
It's the full preview podcast. UFC 321.
What's up, guys, and welcome to a new episode of the full preview. We have UFC 321 going on. This is going down in the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. We have 13 fights here, and this is obviously headlined by Tom Aspinall finally making his octagon return against Ciryl Gane. And as the co-main event, we have a fight for the vacant strawweight title between Virna Jandiroba, the rightful #1 contender, I've been saying, against Mackenzie Dern, in which is a rematch after their fight 5 years ago. We'll get into this one. You know the drill, guys. We're going from the very first prelim to the main event. For the prelims, we're doing profiles of the fighters. For the main card, as I assume you guys are familiar with the fighters, we're just going straight into the breakdowns and predictions. So why don't we get into our first fight of the night? We have a strawweight bout between Jaqueline, Amorim, and Mizuki Inoue. So let's begin with Amorim, a decorated BJJ player. Amorim stays tight behind a high guard. She's a bit awkward, but she's athletic and powerful. She likes filling space with kicks and jabs, but she likes to use the overhand right, which plays straight into the fear of the takedown fighters already have for her. She will throw back counters in exchanges and is very good at grabbing reactive clinches to stay safe, but her defense so far hasn't shown many layers and she's stationary against longer combinations. Other than the right hand, there's not a lot of the way of setups, but she has good timing and finishes her entries well when it comes to her takedowns with footwork or trips if not immediately successful with them. Dangerous with leg locks from the bottom and during scrambles. She has incredibly heavy top pressure. Crushing knee passes allow her to get to mount from where she can attack the arms with kimuras and armbars or take the back. And while her ground and pound can be a bit wild, her excellent posture allows her to maintain control while using it to create opportunities. All in all, Amorim has looked impressive so far, but we don't know if she has fixed her issues with conditioning and lack of ideas on the feet during longer fights. Against her, we have Mizuki. 10 years ago, Mizuki was one of the hottest prospects in women's MMA. In a career sadly plagued with injuries and associated inactivity, Mizuki is now 31 and a veteran of 21 fights. A well-rounded threat, Mizuki is a slick boxer in open space with good footwork, an active lead hand, and constant side-to-side hip movement. She's good at using her jab to open up her left hook or draw counter opportunities for her straight right, and she's good at going to the body too. Despite her boxing-oriented stance, she's a solid kicker too, usually attacking with snap kicks to the body from longer range. Her defense is overall solid, but she can be vulnerable to stray shots down the middle when she's looking to set up her attacks. Strong inside the clinch, she's good at fighting grips and using her footwork and head positioning to defend takedowns or create takedowns opportunities of her own. Her knees are very good inside, landing with good technique and power, and she will look for right hands or elbows during breaks. She hasn't seen prolonged grappling in a while now, but she has shown a strong guard, and while her ability to get back up might be lacking, she's active with submission attempts, but also good at stalling and minimizing damage. Mizuki has a very functional game, but she can lack a wow factor to take over fights, and we don't know if injuries have taken a toll on her. It is very hard to trust Mizuki in this one, the inactivity coupled with her losing to strong grapplers in the past. But Amorim hasn't faced much adversity since her debut, getting easy takedowns and submitting opponents. If anything, Mizuki is closer to Sam Hughes than any other opponent she has faced. Mizuki also has good footwork and strong clinch game to deny Amorim before taking over with her striking. It is a very risky pick, but I think Mizuki rallies back from a bad first round to win a decision here. Our next bout is at flyweight. We have a fight between Azat Maksum and Mitch Raposo. So let's begin with Maksum. A dynamic and long wrestle kickboxer, Maksum is all about big actions while he feints at range and can throw half-speed shots here and there. It's all in function of big single strikes or self-contained combinations. Maksum might lack setups and doesn't fight at a super high pace, but he makes up for it with creativity and variety, targeting all 3 levels with attacks from both stances. He has good footwork, but he rarely moves his head unless he's punching. That coupled with big actions make him vulnerable to stray shots. Maksum is very strong inside the clinch and has tremendous balance. Taking him down has been very hard throughout his career, and even when taken down he is quick to wrestle up or scramble back to his feet. He's very aggressive with elbows and uppercuts inside the pocket, and he's the owner of tremendous bodylock takedowns. On the ground, he's aggressive with ground and pound and likes to create movement and force scrambles more than controlling. He has been a submission threat with chokes from the front headlock, the back take, and top position. Maksum is a very impressive athlete, but he really lacks connective tissue and his style is not sustainable despite his decent cardio. Against him, we have Mitch Raposo, a wrestle boxer with good movement and quick hands. Raposo likes to mostly move on the outside, employing his good lateral movement and stand switches to pot shot, move people into shots, or break rhythm with short combinations. Not a consistent jabber, he gathers reactions with feints to win time and space, and then attack with combinations, be it lead hand fades into overhands or mixing the 2 and the 3. A solid calf kick help with disrupting his opponents and piling up damage from open space. He looks to move his head on the outside and can slip the first shot to come back with his short combinations pretty well. His movement, stand switches and misdirections make him somewhat hard to track down. He has had trouble defending kicks and relies on his counters to keep opponents off during prolonged exchanges. Defense inside the pocket is still a work in progress and can struggle with longer opponents trying to counter with short hooks. Not much of a top position grappler, he times explosive reactive takedowns in open space to break rhythm, and has shown good ability to use rights and ground and pound together during finishing sequences, but hasn't been consistent as a controlling grappler. Takedown defense looks solid, especially in open space where he's quick to attack ribs and angle or use a powerful sprawl to negate shots. He's also good at attacking ribs and moving to open space against the fence, but has struggled with leg attacks with his back to the cage. Cardio, toughness, and shin have all been good so far. Problems with his defending combinations and during transitions are a concern. Raposo has tools to exploit some of the bad habits and tendencies of Maksum here. He might be able to frustrate the Kazakh with his outside movement and use his feints to attack and get back to space, but on the flip side we have Maksum with a decent reach and power advantage and being the more comfortable and damaging kicker on top of it. Raposo likes to wrestle for safety, but I don't think that plays out well here, with Maksum being hard to take down and good at reversals inside the clinch. It is a lot closer than I thought before watching tape. Raposo can use his movement and maybe even hurt Maksum exploiting his lack of head movement, but I think Maksum will take rounds landing the bigger shots, being stronger in the clinch and even landing takedowns maybe. Maksum wins a decision. We go all the way up to heavyweight for our next fight. We have a bout between Chris Barnett and Hamdy Abdelwahab. So, Chris Barnett, athletic and very stocky, the now 39 years old Taekwondo black belt remains a dynamic threat at heavyweight. Very short for the division, while he still has kicking chops, he has had to rely on his boxing more as he ages. He packs big power and decent instincts inside the pocket with his loopy shots, but he can get strained at long range if he can get his kicks going, as he lacks good straight punches and most of his feints come in the way of stepping to fake a blitzing entry. That being said, he remains deceptively quick and athletic despite his age and build. The clinch has been a problem against competent and taller fighters, and while he can use his strength to push away and he's good at finding punches during breaks, he can get stalled and damaged with attrition shots. Barnett is also surprisingly agile scrambler, and his flexibility and stocky build has allowed him to escape bad positions numerous times. Cardio is decent and he's incredibly tough, but he has some clear limitations to his style. Against him we have Hamdy Abdelwahab, a former international Greco wrestler. Hamdy has been mostly a boxer in his MMA career. He likes to walk people down with feints before opening up with big leg kicks and short boxing combinations. He has a good jab that he can double up to set up his right hand, but sadly he mostly uses it to start combinations. His leaping left hook and his counter right hand are his best punches. His defense is solid, he actively parries shots coming his way, and is good at rolling with whatever gets past that, but he can be too stationary during exchanges. Despite focusing more on striking, Hamdy is still a solid wrestler, and as his background suggests, his Greco wrestling shines when he clinches up with opponents. He can take big heavyweights for a ride with trips or throws, but his control is not great from top position, especially when he tries to open up with ground and pound. Hamdy is athletic, and despite getting tired early in fight, he remains well composed. He fights well tired. There doesn't seem to be much depth to his game other than what's already said, though. I feel like Barnett can take advantage of his foot speed here to frustrate Hamdy with in and out blitzes. And even if he gets taken down, I think he should be fine here. The problem for him is that I think that's not a super sustainable style here, especially at his age. So I think he needs to rely on hurting the Egyptian early. And it's just hard to trust the cardio of a 39 years old who has been taking a lot of damage since joining the UFC. The lack of a good jab is especially likely to hurt him here, as it won't allow him to mimic the performance of Mohamed Usman in his last fight. I think Hamdy might struggle early, but eventually he uses his size and more polished hands to win a decision. Next is a featherweight fight between José Delgado and Nathaniel Wood. So let's begin with José Delgado. An MMA lab southpaw, Delgado keeps a very high output and is an all-rounder threat, well versed in transitions like guys from his camp usually are. Long and big for the division, Delgado loves the body kick in open space and is willing to change states to get to the open side with the rear kick. A long tricky 1-2 in which he can vary the trajectory of his 2 allows him to snipe from long distance, and he loves knees, be it stepping it from range after his punches or from a variety of grips inside the clinch. If he gets opponents backing up, he will track them with long punches before opening up with long combinations against the cage. Punches to the body and his aforementioned knees make him a dangerous threat against the fence. His defense relies on distance and footwork, and he doesn't move his head much, but he's an active counter threat, particularly with sneaky rear left hook. Clinches and single legs offer defensive options and also allow him to work his transitions. He's just as active and aggressive inside the clinch as he's at range. Delgado uses his long frame to land knees and elbows, and will look to drop levels or land a trip to get the fight to the ground. On the ground, he has good positioning and base, and will open up with nasty ground and pound. Taking the back is also a specialty, owning 3 pro wins via rear naked choke. His aggressive and scrambling nature has exposed him to bad positions in the past, but he's a solid grappler and scrambler from bad positions as well. Delgado is well conditioned and dynamic, but he can lack focus during fights and his defense can use some work. Against him we have Nathaniel Wood. A stocky and athletic striker with skills in every phase, Wood looks to walk people down behind a hard guard from which he can counter with quick hands, either with catch and pitch counters or off slips and fades. Hard leg kicks that he can throw leading or as a counter to opposing kicks, and snappy snap kicks to the body that he can throw long or up close complement his game well and allow him to compete at long distance despite his stature. His defense is good and layered, being the owner of good footwork and head movement, complemented by his already mentioned high guard. He's mostly susceptible to stray shots, hidden behind feints at long range, and can be timed by same-time counters when forced to close the distance. Very good inside the clinch, where he mixes his dirty boxing with slick strip and foot sweeps. Coupled with his good footwork, he's able to control exchanges there, keeping his opponents in their toes despite his usual size disadvantage. Wood is decently strong from top position but can struggle to get ground and pound going against longer foes who can use posts to get back up. So far, at 145, his takedown defense has looked pretty solid, aided by his stocky build and wide base. Prolonged exchanges against the fence and shots during transitions have been the way to take him down. A good scrambler, but can be controlled if put flat on his back by bigger guys. His ground and pound and back takes are strong suits. Wood is tough, well conditioned and adaptable, but being undersized for the division, he has had to rely on big actions to compete, and that can be draining and expose him to counterattacks. One of the most interesting fights on the prelims, as Delgado is 5 inches taller and has a 4-inch reach advantage. While Wood already dealt with someone with a similar frame in Andre Fili, Delgado is the younger man this time around and fights at a high pace. On paper, Wood has the tools to deal with him everywhere, but Delgado is himself a solid transition fighter. The MMA Lab product has a dangerous combination of length, aggressiveness, and a higher pace than the British. It is winnable for Wood, but I think Delgado takes this decision via volume and big moments. And we're back at heavyweight. We have a fight between Valter Walker and Louie Sutherland. So let's begin with Valter Walker. Johnny Walker's brother finds himself on a 3-fight win streak all via heel hook. Unprecedented in the UFC. Before his success with leg locks, he had a game that revolved around his big overhand right and level changes. A range, Walker is patient, filling the gaps with jabs, low kicks, knees, and a front kick to the body. He wants to find spots to set up his big right hand or to draw the opponent's in to look for his big double leg. His defense relies a lot on the high guard, but that can be to his advantage as it allows him to not concede much ground, and when he feels he has his timing, he will open up with counters, left hooks, and right hands. He can fall apart against combinations, but his level change is his saving grace. He's the owner of a very decent double leg takedown. Walker finishes authoritatively and is quick to establish half guard, be it in open space or against the fence. From top position, he used to be more conservative, chipping away with shots and using a smothering pressure until he got to an advanced position or feel his opponent tiring to open up with heavy ground pound, but now he presents the danger of his leg lock game and a willingness to use it in a division that might not be too familiar with it. There's not much else on tape about Walker. His cardio seems average, to be honest, and he's a good athlete. Against him we have Louie Sutherland, a big and strong heavyweight, a kickboxer. Sutherland likes to stalk opponents to the cage with decent pressure and footwork. He likes to show feints and takes his time looking for openings. He carries big power and decent hand speed for a man his size. He is at his best when he's putting combinations together, putting punches together, and punctuating with big leg kicks. He also has a knack for knees. Defensively, he's good at getting behind his lead shoulder, can move his feet well for his size, and is a present counter threat, but there's not much depth beyond that. Very physically strong, Sutherland has struggled with wrestlers in the past, but has shown the ability to be hard to deal with just while staying safe and being super strong. Sutherland is only 4 years into his career and is training under a good gym with Tom Aspinall. He's still very raw, but has potential to be an above average heavyweight, at least, I think. So, can Walker keep getting away with it? Probably. Sutherland is raw and exactly the kind of guy to fall for this like silly nonsense. That being said, Sutherland is very strong and is training with Aspinall, as I already said, and those guys have all been looking great lately. Sutherland has also shown hard resiliency and surprising cardio so far in his career, despite he has like a decent amount of fights, but he's just like not very deep into his MMA career. To be honest, I don't have many reasons to do this pick, but I'm looking. I'm taking the risk here, and I'm picking Sutherland via TKO in round 2. We go to 155 next, as we have a fight between Mateusz Rebecki and Ludovit Klein. So Rebecki, a stocky and powerful southpaw, Rebecki is a pressure fighter who likes to push people to the fence behind the threat of his powerful kicks and his big left hand. To accomplish this, he possesses good pressure in footwork and an active filler jab that he uses to gather reactions and line up his left hand that he usually throws in the way of a wide overhand. Rebecki is constantly attacking all 3 levels, not afraid to attack with powerful inside leg kicks with his left leg in open stance matchups, and he can also throw his left hand to the body as a straight punch. Against the fence, he unloads combinations, like his left uppercut to the body and a follow-up right hook upstairs, all while using his jab to keep his opponents busy and set up his shots. He will look to parry shots with his high guard and usually looks to move his head after throwing his combos. And he's also good at catching kicks and converting these catches into counters and takedowns. On the topic of takedowns, Rebecki is a strong wrestler who uses his stocky build both to attack and defend takedowns effectively. Physically very strong, he likes to finish takedowns against the fence, sending his shot with his hands, but he can also drive from open space in the form of a reactive shot and the aforementioned kick catches. From top position, he's heavy and has good ground and pound, and he likes to pass to crucifix to finish fights, but he's also good from back control. From the bottom, Rebecki is hard to hold down as he looks to create space, attack the legs, or wrestle up. Rebecki is durable and tough, but his game can be shallow, and that can get him in trouble if forced back, or if he's not successful with his A game. And while his cardio is good, the pace he sets can get out of hand, making him fade late into fights. Against him, we have Ludovit Klein, a fellow stocky southpaw with a karate background here. Klein prefers to operate at open space, fighting much longer than his stature indicates. His game used to revolve largely around his left kick, with which he attacks to all 3 levels with power, speed, and dexterity, but in later years he has become more of a boxer. Klein has a piston of a right-hand jab that is aided by his quick in-and-out movement, a solid right hook, and a very quick left hand that he can throw straight but also likes to throw wide as an overhand. Punch kick combinations are his best tool when he loosens up. Klein is also physically strong in the clinch. He's quick to fight grips and fire fast knees and elbows before disengaging. His first line of takedown defense is very strong. He has very quick and strong hips and is fast to disarm entries. He has been taken down by nuanced chain wrestling in the past though. From his back, Klein is a serviceable grappler that looks to stall, waiting for a spot to explode, sweep, or wall walk. Takedowns of his own but have become more frequent lately. Just like everything else, his level change is fast. And he has clean finishes if he gets to the hips, which is helped by his frame and strength. Solid from top position, his control is good, he can let go with good ground and pound, but he can lack activity there. Klein is very athletic and surprisingly well conditioned for the division. He can lack volume at times and his grappling game is on the shallow side despite being well put together. This is somewhat of a physical mirror match between stocky, powerful southpaws. This one pits the aggression and pressure from Rebecki against the finesse and speed of Klein. Curiously, neither fighter have much experience of note against southpaws. In cases like this, I often see who has the more active lead hand and who relies more on open stance tactics. Klein is the better jabber of the two, and I suspect will be more comfortable kicking the legs in a close stance matchup. Rebecki for his part loves the overhand and has a killer right hook, both tools which translate well here. If Rebecki can get Klein to the fence, it is probably he wins this fight. I can see him overwhelm the Slovak with combinations against the fence. But I think he relies a bit too much on double attacks and southpaw angles to make his pressure work. Klein has the better footwork, a speed advantage, the aforementioned jab, and can exploit Rebecki's defense with his own quick combinations in open space. Rebecki is also likely to depend on the cage for takedowns, as Klein is very hard to take down in open space. If Rebecki establishes pressure, he wins. If Klein keeps it in the open, he takes it. I think the latter is more likely, but I expect fireworks here. Ludovit Klein takes a decision. Next one is at middleweight. We have a fight between Ikram Aliskerov and the Iron Turtle Yong Park. Let's begin with Aliskerov. A pressuring wrestler with a big right hand, Aliskerov likes to score at open space with kicks and will put combinations together if opponents close the distance. His jab from a floating lead hand is stiff, and his right hand works as a follow-up or as a counter to what's coming back. He can throw his right hand as a straight overhand or uppercut. Not very layered defensively, but gives a right hand a high right hand as he manages distance and has a good counter left hook while fading back. He's good at changing levels and looking for clinches for defensive purposes as well. His quick to level change and good timing allow him to look for double leg, knee tap, single leg series. He can be tough in open space and doesn't change wrestle much there. He shines when he gets his man against the cage though, and he can work on finishes there. On top position, he's very dangerous with fluid transitions and pressure, which allow him to look for a variety of submissions and secure mat returns if he gets the rear body lock. Of note is his constant arm attacks from control and submission, be it half Nelson, chicken wings, kimuras, Americanas, but also armbars off his back. Aliskerov has good attributes and has a well-rounded game, but doesn't have much experience in hard fights, and his stiff defense has gotten him in trouble on the feet. Yong Park, a well-rounded fighter, Park is at his best when he can pressure behind his effective jab. He's aggressive off the bat, looking to establish range with his lead hand and leg kicks. From there he can counter well, but he's at his best piling up damage with the jab and using the reaction to set up longer combinations. His defense relies largely on his ability to control the initiative and make the correct reads while maintaining range. He can move his head on the first layer well, has good footwork but can keep his chin high and lack nuance. A solid clincher, Park is effective with strikes, but he's at his best when he can use trips or drag people down against the fence. From top position, he's highly effective using rights and constant ground and pound to wear opponents off, and he has good control too. The back take is usually his endgame, and he's the owner of a tight rear naked choke that is perfect to finish his slow simmer style. Takedown defense has been solid, but he has been taken down by insistent wrestlers against the fence. From his back, he's defensively sound, good at avoiding damage and submissions, but his get-up game can be lacking. Park is durable when conditioned, but he's not an outstanding athlete, and his slow starts can expose his defensive flaws. This is a fight between well-rounded grapplers with opposite approaches. Aliskerov is dangerous early and is more of a destroyer, as opposed to Park, who wears people with his pressure and is more of a builder archetype. Park's jab is going to be a valuable tool here, but he needs to be careful with Ikram's counters while staying on his face. Aliskerov is likely to have the striking and grappling advantage early here. If Park is able to extend this one, this fight is very winnable for him. But I think his slow start matches up particularly bad with Aliskerov's aggressiveness, especially the counters, and the more physical grappling early on. I think that Aliskerov gets a TKO on round 1. We're back at lightweight for our featured bout of the prelims. We have a fight between Nasrat Haqparast and Keelan Salkild. So let's begin with Haqparast, a southpaw boxer. He's all about the 1-2, both on the lead and on the counter. Nowadays, he prefers to move around in open space, looking to set up entries with his double jab or set up a footwork trap. He's comfortable jabbing and fighting hands, and is competent in both directions. He has somewhat of a minimalistic toolset, but his hand speed and rhythm allow him to maximize it. And to his credit, he has improved his shot selection, going to the body more, his ability to extend combinations with punches too. And he's less picky when it comes to kicking nowadays, having a stiff body kick and inside leg kick. His defense relies on his footwork, both in the form of angles and distance management. But he also has good feeder slayer head movement, and his quick counters and positioning are good to dissuade entries from opponents. His defensive wrestling has been solid both in the form of anti-wrestling tactics, but also when it comes to fighting grips and using his athleticism and strength to remain upright, with the head start of his good footwork. His ground game hasn't been tested at a high level in a long time, so it remains somewhat of a question mark, and it used to be a weak spot. Haqparast is well conditioned, sharp, and athletic. His biggest flaw is depending on controlling the initiative too much and lacking long distance tools. Keelan Salkild, on the other hand, is a long kick boxer. He maintains a high output on the outside with hard kicks to all 3 levels. He likes to start his combinations behind stutter steps and has a penchant for kicking off his punches and punishes resets with kicks. His jab is inconsistent, but he makes up for it with an active lead leg that he uses to attack with quick inside leg kicks and body kicks with little tail. The left hook to the body is another valuable weapon for him. At range, Salkild depends on controlling the initiative for defense, using spacing and counters to keep opponents away, but he does have the ability to hide behind his lead shoulder and slip shots to come back with counters. And he's excellent at catching kicks and countering with punches or kicks of his own. Salkild likes to mix things up constantly and is a solid transitional fighter. He's good at putting takedown attempts at the end of combinations. He's big and strong for the weight class. He's a scrappy wrestler who pummels well and likes to swim to the back or work trips from over-unders and the body lock. Salkild has been put flat on his back and has been controlled, but he's always looking to create space with butterflies and pushing off the hips. He's another fighter that shines from the back take with excellent transitions between it and the mount, and also good at stretching opponents out. He's a capable finisher with the rear naked choke and ground and pound. Very tough and well conditioned, he has shown some problems with his defense and cagecraft when pushed back and has been controlled on the ground. This is a matchup between the super focused approach of Haqparast versus the maximalist approach of Salkild. While Salkild has the toolset to play a focused game plan on either long range kicking, wrestling, or a mix of the two, I think it is more likely he tries to take the fight everywhere as he usually does. While he's a decent boxer, I think if he engages Haqparast too much in his wheelhouse or fails to take him away from his wheelhouse, the fight is going to get a lot harder for him. Despite looking very impressive in his last outing, Salkild did get very tired at a pace he himself set against Ashmus and had to be bailed by his size and wrestling advantage many times. I think Salkild has a good chance of mixing up things and finding success, but Haqparast is a powerful athlete with speed and a clear win condition. I think that Haqparast wins a decision. And to open up the main card, we have a light heavyweight bout between Alexander Rakic and Azat Murzakanov. So this is a bout between kickboxers. A staple of the rankings, Rakic faces off against the tricky, stocky southpaw Murzakanov. Once thought to be a sure pick to contend for the title, Rakic finds himself on a 3-fight losing streak. To be fair, those losses came to the top of the division in former champions, all three of them, Jan Blachowicz, Jiří Procházka, and Magomed Ankalaev. Murzakanov, on the other hand, comes undefeated, but having faced a lower level of opposition. Rakic is very big for the division and looks to have a staggering 6 inches of reach and height on the Russian. And the two hardest fights for the professional came at the hands of dedicated strikers in Dustin Jacoby and Tafon Nshukwi. Rakic, on his part, was largely neutralized at range by Ankalaev, who plays somewhat of a similar footwork-based counter game to his fellow Russian, and both guys are southpaws. Rakic has shown some good ideas in the open stance matchup, kicking high often to neutralize the left hand and counter kicking too. But as mentioned earlier, he has been out-angled and his defense isn't great at seeing either right hooks over the lead shoulder or straight lefts. Other than setting up traps with his feet, one of Murzakanov's strengths is his variety with the left hand. He can throw it straight, looped, as an overhand, or as an uppercut. He has good eye for his shot selection with it. He will have to traverse a long road to get to Rakic though, and the Serbian is a dangerous counter threat himself. It will be on Murzakanov to take the initiative and control the entries with his footwork. Rakic has shown a well-rounded game in the past, especially with very solid top control. The Russian, for his part, has been solid defending takedowns, not only because of his positioning, but also because of his stocky frame and good grip fighting. Rakic is big, athletic, and sharp, but I also feel like he's very confident dependent and he can lack depth. Murzakanov has a more focused game and is more adaptable and resourceful on the feet, I feel. Maybe Rakic wins with a big KO or via grappling and it looks obvious in hindsight, but I think Murzakanov is able to outstrike him and is just as likely to get big moments, so I think the Russian gets a decision here. We have our third heavyweight fight of the card here, as we have a bout between Alexander Volkov and Jailton Almeida. So this is an old school striker versus grappler matchup at heavyweight. This really feels like a true outcome fight. Jailton saw his lone loss at heavyweight at the hands of a fellow wrestler in Curtis Blades, while Volkov's only losses in recent memory were to fellow strikers at the hands of the men involved in the main event, curiously. That being said, Aspinall made grappling a big part of his game plan against the Russian and was able to submit him. Volkov does have good tools to keep grapplers at bay with his straight punches and front kicks backed by his enormous frame. And other than the Aspinall submission, has looked to be a competent scrambler, able to survive and get up against a variety of opponents. He also destroyed the last wrestler he faced in Alexander Romanov. Jailton, on his part, got finished going for a back takedown when Blades sprawled and pounded on him, but he has bounced back with 2 impressive finishes against the Moldovan wrestlers in Romanov and Spivak. Jailton is not a zero when it comes to striking though. He's certainly very agile for the weight class and packs power. He showed hurting Spivak on the feet to begin the finishing sequence in a fight that saw him overcome adversity in the form of being on bottom. It is still hard to see him have much success if he is stuck at range against the Russian, who is efficient and damaging from long range. Volkov was taken off his feet by reactive shots of his straight right by both Gane and Aspinall, but they have a different level of comfort striking that allowed them to find the position to shoot reactively. Jailton's success relies on achieving an early takedown, and that leads to a finish or at least enough damage to put the Russian off his game. I don't think Volkov is getting insta-submitted this time around though. He might have to survive an early scare, but I think he'll expose the limitations of the Brazilian on the feet. Volkov wins and gets a TKO on round 2. We go to bantamweight for our next one. It's Umar Nurmagomedov against Mario Bautista. This bantamweight bout is very likely to determine the next contender for the 135 strap. Usman is coming off his first professional loss to champion Merab Dvalishvili in what was, all things considered, a very close fight scoring-wise, while Bautista is riding an impressive 8-fight winning streak. José Aldo fight notwithstanding, with his last being an impressive dominant win over Pachi Mix. Seeing this from a wrestling standpoint, this is a compelling matchup. Obviously Umar is the superior wrestler and grappler overall, but Bautista, a former high school wrestler, has consistently improved as a complete MMA wrestler. As most MMA lab fighters, Bautista is excellent at transitions and has a very good scrambling priorities and options, and his selection of tactics is very fight-oriented. Lapses of sketchy takedown defense can cost him here, as Nurmagomedov is a very potent takedown artist. That being said, I expect Bautista to have scouted escapes from the rear bodylock that were successfully employed by Sandhagen and Merab, and he's also adept at creating escapes during transitions like Almacan was able a couple of times against Nurmagomedov. To Umar, Bautista seems like a similar matchup to Sandhagen, but Bautista is more aggressive and scrappy nowadays, I feel, and less likely to get his striking muted because of the wrestling threat. Bautista is also a more naturally violent striker inside the clinch and during transitions, as opposed to Sandhagen, who was laser focused on defending. This might be a double-edged sword for the American though. When it comes to striking, Umar probably has a speed advantage with the hands and is a far more dexterous kicker. Nurmagomedov has a hair trigger to counter in combination, and he pairs his kicks with his punches and takedowns brilliantly. Bautista does have more depth to his striking, I feel, with a more nuanced jab, more organic shot selection, and very school boxing defense. Both fighters have been fine with taking the back foot in the past, but in this fight it would be wise to try and pressure, and the one with the front foot will likely control the fight. Again, even if Bautista accepts the pressure, he has shown to be the more sophisticated striker in open space, especially with the footwork. Even in the open stance matchup that you would assume favors the Chechen fighter, excuse me. And finally, there's the pace and conditioning. While Nurmagomedov was able to maintain pace for 5 rounds against Sandhagen, he was firmly in the driver's seat. In his fight against Merab, he started falling apart in the 3rd round before regaining his composure for the 5th. But there was a clear decrease in dynamism, and he also seemed to run out of ideas. Bautista usually only gets better as fights go on, not only finding openings but also upping the pressure and volume. I understand Umar being the favorite, the wrestling and the speed advantage, and the fact that Bautista has been taken down and can be somewhat of a slow starter. But if Mario is able to firmly take the front foot and put on a pace before the halfway point of 2nd round, I think he can actually win this. I'm taking the risk and I'm going Bautista winning a decision here. And with that, it's time for our co-main event. For the vacant strawweight title, we have a fight between Virna Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern. So a rematch after almost 5 years. The rightful number 1 contender Jandiroba faces off against Mackenzie Dern, mostly on the strength of her previous wins over her fellow Brazilian. That and the fact that with Weili up at flyweight, Virna has beat virtually everyone in the division bar Tatiana Suarez, and obviously the marketability factor puts Dern in there too. And that includes names like Yan Xiaonan, Amanda Lemos, Marina Rodriguez, all of whom beat Dern in the past. Some of the dynamics of the first fight still keep relevant to this day though. Dern is the quicker and more dynamic athlete with more power on the feet and greater ability to explode into submission attempts on the ground, but Virna, despite her limitations and awkward striking, is smart, very physically strong, one of the few fighters in the division who can go toe-to-toe with Dern on the ground. The first fight saw a very good first round for Dern, using her hands to put volume on Jandiroba. Then Virna took over the 2nd round once Mackenzie started losing some steam on her shots and got more predictable. Sadly, Virna's momentum got interrupted by an unfortunate eye poke late in round 2. The 3rd round was close, with Dern being able to regain some of her aggressiveness, especially early. One interesting takeaway was that Jandiroba looked like the superior wrestler, stuffing Dern's takedowns and usually reversing her against the fence. It was a closer fight than it may be remembered by the few who put attention. Now we gotta assess how these fighters have changed and improved since then. Both girls have improved when it comes to composure on the feet, I feel. Dern is better at maintaining her stance while throwing combinations, and Virna, while still janky, has looked more confident even when standing across some of the division's most dangerous strikers. These improvements in composure have made Dern a bigger takedown threat. Her level changes are still not great, but she's quick and she's shooting from better positions now. Jandiroba, on her part, has improved tremendously as an offensive wrestler, especially when she gets to a single leg against the fence, with numerous finishes that take advantage of her scrambling options and her physical strength. Virna looked like the better conditioned fighter the first time around, and that might still hold true. While Mackenzie was able to dominate for 5 rounds against Hill, we've seen her get tired and more importantly lose dynamism as fights goes on, even over 3 rounds. Jandiroba hasn't seen the championship rounds yet, as she submitted Lemos in the second round of her only main event, but she has been a consistent third round winner throughout her career. Dern should look to implement her boxing game, ideally moving forwards, and only get a takedown if it's presented to her. Her power and speed are likely to make the difference in the scorecards during close kickboxing rounds. Virna on her part, I feel needs to push a pace on the feet early, even if it's dangerous for her. She has been adaptable, and her underrated defense might keep her safe to make Dern spend energy and lose her explosiveness. When it comes to the grappling, I feel like whoever is on top is probably winning. Even though both are very good and aggressive off their backs and can use their submission attempts to force scrambles, this is probably not the matchup to try that for both women. Dern has been styled from top position in the past. She lost to Amanda Ribas back in the day. And despite getting the submission of her back in the rematch in her last fight, she was still reversed on a takedown attempt and controlled for a good portion of a round. Virna was also able to get on top of Dern for a while and stay safe, and I suspect she can do so again. One meme factor to consider is that Virna has been consistently vulnerable to ab kicks when standing over opponents on guard. She hasn't been hit by them yet, and it might be irrelevant, but you never know. This is a hard matchup for Jandiroba against someone who is just as good, even better in some aspects, than her when it comes to grappling, and someone who also carries speed and punching power advantage on the feet. But I feel like her grappling game has been adapted better to MMA over the years, and her results over common opposition back that up. That and her durability and sneaky defense make me feel like she can survive the early dynamism of Dern to subsequently take over with his strength and grappling. Jandiroba takes the later rounds and a decision to become our new champion. And with that we get to our main event. For the undisputed heavyweight title, we have Tom Aspinall defending his championship against Ciryl Gane. The champion is the rightful favorite on basis of two big factors here. He's the more immediately dangerous striker. He's very likely to have a grappling edge here. But there are still a lot of question marks around Aspinall, and they might remain there if he gets another quick knockout. Aspinall is not only blazing fast for the division, both with his movement and his hands, but his danger is amplified by solid mechanics and good sense of timing and distance. While the bulk of his success has been obtained via his 1-2, Aspinall has a solid arsenal of strikes, being a capable kicker, and dangerous in clinch transitions with elbows and knees. The Brit, while a bit reckless during exchanges, uses his footwork and feints well to control the initiative and has good reflexes, being capable of dealing with kicks as well. Aspinall level changes are a bit shallow, but his speed gives him big drive and he has good sense of timing, usually shooting under strikes. Gane still brings interesting questions to the table though, and while he's the more exposed product of the two, he has qualities Aspinall haven't seen in a single package yet. First, Gane is a big heavyweight, around the same weight as Aspinall and is shorter, but with a longer reach while being leaner, so basically the same size here. Not only he is big, but he's one of the few guys in the division that can give Aspinall a run for his money in the speed department. Gane might not be the thunderous puncher the champion is, but his in and out movement and reflexes might be just as quick. This coupled with his own good sense of distance and timing, and the fact that Gane himself controls the initiative with feints, hand fighting, and rhythm manipulations, it is not hard to see why Gane is at the very least compelling on the feet. Most importantly, Gane is the owner of a sturdy jab and solid linear kicks that maximize his range and allows him to have extra time to react to incoming strikes. This might be tense and competitive until someone lands something big. When it comes to grappling, Gane is preceded by his bad reputation. He got repeatedly taken down by Ngannou and completely fumbled the bag against Jon Jones. But he has some good qualities for the matchup. He was able to minimize damage with Francis on top and showed improvement mat wrestling his last outing against Volkov. Gane is also no stranger to scrambles, submission attempts of his own and ground and pound. I think the idea of a takedown being an instant win for Aspinall might be a bit overstated here. Aspinall is coming off a 14-month layoff when he had a regular day at the office, getting a first round knockout against Curtis Blades. Gane, on the other hand, is coming off a 10-month layoff, where he won a controversial decision against the aforementioned Volkov. The Frenchman suffered multiple toe fractures in that fight, but other than some interesting wrestling looks early, he looked flat even before the injury, to be honest. To this day, Aspinall has never seen the judges' scorecards, and despite getting a finish, he did look winded in his only second round in the UFC. And he lost in his only other second career round. Curiously via heel hook, a move that has gotten Gane in trouble in the past but also gave him a submission victory. Gane, on his part, not only has wins by decision, but has experience over 5 rounds, and has a proof gas tank to go the distance. If Gane is able to extend the fight, it is not hard to see Aspinall falling apart or losing his X factor. But the advantages in macro aspects, the momentum and well-roundedness all favor the Brit, and while I think Gane has a better shot than most give him credit for, I gotta side with the champion retaining. I think that Aspinall gets the knockout on round 2. And that's the pay-per-view, guys. I think this is fairly solid. There are like quite a few fights that I like. I think that the main event and the co-main event are very compelling. Actually, some people might complain that the strawweight fight is for a fake title, but like Will is moving up. She's relinquishing the title. We need a champion, right? And main event is very compelling. I feel like even if a lot of people feel like Aspinall is going to wash through Gane, I feel like it's like the best matchup that you can make right now, because it's like Gane presents challenges that other guys have not to Tom Aspinall. So if Tom Aspinall wants to show he's the real deal, like a win against Ciryl Gane can do a lot for that, actually. Well, let's get into like the fights that interest me here. On the prelims, if you want like bangers, you gotta go José Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood, and Rebecki versus Klein, and Haqparast versus Salkil. Those 3 are like the ones that really like caught my eye. But I'm also very interested in seeing Mizuki get back here. Amorim is like a very exciting prospect. Maksum versus Raposo is going to be fun. Even the heavyweight fights, like Barnett versus like Hamdy, it's going to be silly at least. Valter Walker, is he going to get another heel hook? I don't know. And then this main card is very good, man. Like Rakic versus Morsicano, Volkov versus Almeida, and Nurmagomedov versus Bautista is like huge. This might be like the most... Nurmagomedov versus Bautista is probably like the most skilled fight in here. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid pay-per-view. It's good. I actually like this one. I'm not going to complain a lot. Sorry for being so late with this one, guys. Just life happens sometimes. But remember that I'll be back tomorrow with the live stream. So Fight Companion tomorrow. So watch out for that. Thank you guys as always for supporting me. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.